This is a guide on how to use the Miyoo Mini Plus as an MP3 player. This will also work on the original Miyoo Minis up to the V4 as well. I will use the names interchangeably from here on out, but will make note of any cases where a scenario only applies to the Plus or the OG. The only big difference is that the original Miyoo Mini does not have Wi-Fi while the Plus does. As always, everything will be timestamped below so you can skip around. We will be using the handy-dandy Gmu Music app, and that means we will have to install Onion OS onto your Miyoo Mini. Onion OS is a custom operating system and will allow us to install and run the Gmu Music Player app. If you have Onion OS installed already, please skip ahead to the next section. If you don't have Onion OS installed, I'll be going over a very handy tool called Onion Desktop Tools. Onion Desktop Tools was developed by schmurtzm, who is one of the main contributors to the Onion operating system. I will link this site in the comments and description below. Once you navigate to the website, you will click on the link called Onion Desktop Tools. I already have my pre-downloaded to my desktop. You're going to navigate to your file. Mine is called Onion Desktop Tools 0.0.9. That is the current version as of this recording. You're going to right click on it and you're going to use a tool like 7-zip to extract the files. Once extracted, please navigate to the file Onion Desktop Tools Launcher.bat. Once you click on this, Windows will ask for your permission. Click on the Yes button. Here we can see the Onion Desktop Tools. Take the micro SD card that you want to install Onion OS on and plug it into your USB adapter. I am using the default Samsung adapter that came with my micro SD card. Once you plug the USB adapter into your computer, please verify that it's recognized by the operating system. Your computer may assign your SD card reader a different drive letter, so just keep that in mind. I'm using the stock SD card from the Datafrog SF2000 for the purpose of demonstrating this tool. The option that I would recommend here is the Format SD card and Install Onion option. Please note here that formatting means you'll erase everything on that SD card. If you want to keep anything, please make sure to back up everything that you do want to keep. Once you click Format SD card and Install Onion and hit OK, it will take a couple of seconds to bring up a box. Here we can see we have two drives. You want to make sure that you are selecting your micro SD card. I also have a 1TB Toshiba external USB hard drive connected, and I do not want to format that. That would be a very bad day. Click on the proper drive and click OK, and it will take care of formatting and installing. If you are upgrading or trying to fix your Onion OS install, select the first option, the Install, Upgrade, or Reinstall Onion without formatting the SD card. If you would like to install Onion OS on your own without using the tool, I will link the official documentation on the installation process. The process itself is very straightforward. If you need any help with anything, please feel free to leave a comment down below, and I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as possible. As always, if you're paranoid about security, I would highly recommend running everything in a virtual machine. Now all you have left to do is to take your SD card, plug it back into your Miyoo Mini Plus, and let the installation process finish. That's it, now you have Onion OS installed. To transfer files, I personally like using a micro SD to USB adapter. However, if you have a Miyoo Mini Plus, you can also connect your device to your home Wi-Fi network and transfer files over using a computer and a web browser. If you want to use this method, go to Settings, go to Wi-Fi, and make sure it is turned on. Now back out, go to the Apps folder, and go all the way down to Tweaks. Now navigate to Network, and make sure that the HTTP web-based file sync option is enabled. Also, please make sure to write down your IP address on the top. Mine is 192.168.0.101. This is your local IP address, and it will only be accessible on your home network. Your IP address may differ than mine. As a security note here, I would not recommend doing this in public Wi-Fi networks. Anyone can access your Miyoo Mini Plus, so I would only recommend using this in the safety of your home network. Now go into your computer and type in the IP address of your Miyoo Mini Plus. Mine was 192.168.0.101. Hit enter, and now you'll see a very handy visual interface to transfer files to your Miyoo Mini Plus. You can go into the media folder, into music. You can drag and drop any songs that you want to play here. If the connection is spotty, please do keep in mind that you may have to bring your Miyoo Mini Plus closer to your router. For some reason, my router does not like my Miyoo Mini Plus, and I have to pretty much place it within arm's reach of the router for any network functions to work properly. Also, please do note here that the original Miyoo Mini up to the version 4 do not have Wi-Fi enabled, so this is only for the Miyoo Mini Plus. This option is very handy if you don't like constantly removing and inserting your micro SD card into your Miyoo Mini Plus and to your computer. Now we'll be installing GMU next. To do this, navigate to Apps and start the Package Manager. Once in the Package Manager, press R once to go to the Apps tab and scroll all the way down to Music Player GMU. Turn it on and press Start twice to install it. This will exit out of the Package Manager and we'll be back into the Apps folder again. Scroll all the way down and we will find the Music Player app icon. Before we start the music app, we do need to make one very important change. Press B once to exit back to the main menu. Go over to Settings and press A. Scroll all the way down to Sleep Timer and turn this off. If you don't turn this off, the Miyoo Mini Plus will go to sleep even while playing music, unless you are actively pressing buttons. I found the device to be unusable as an MP3 player without turning off the sleep function. However, please do make sure to turn the sleep timer back on when you are done using the Miyoo Mini Plus as a music player, because with this option turned off, the device will remain on until you turn it off and it will drain the battery. Okay, now we are ready to start the GMU Music app. Navigate back to the Apps folder. Start the music player once to make sure all the necessary files are created. Now we will exit the music app by pressing Menu and Select at the same time. Now we can turn the device off and get ready to copy over our music to our micro SD card. GMU supports a surprising amount of file types: OGG Vorbis, MP3, MP2, MusePack, FLAC, Speaks, OGG Opus, WAVEPack, and module formats can be played. I personally tested out .ogg, .mp3, and .flac files, and they all worked fine. M3U and PLS playlist files are supported as well. GMU can write M3U playlists, however, PLS playlists can only be read. If you're going to be using the app to make your own playlists, I would recommend separating songs for separate playlists by putting them into different folders. This step will make it easier to create the playlists in the app, but feel free to do whatever you are comfortable with. Before we put the micro SD card back into the Miyoo Mini Plus, I would highly recommend editing the default key mappings for GMU. This is why I recommend this. The default keybinds for previous and next tracks are bound to L1 and R1. These buttons are extremely easy to press by even placing gently on the table. I tested pocketing the device into different pants types with the following results. Baggy sweatpants with big loose pockets had very few unwanted L1 and R1 button presses. Casual khakis with medium-sized average pockets had a moderate amount of unwanted L1 and R1 button presses. Skinny jeans were the worst with small, tight pockets. They had an insane amount of unwanted L1 and R1 button presses. Simply putting the device into a pocket may cause one of the trigger buttons to snag on the pocket opening and skip a track. If you are pocketing this device, I would highly recommend rebinding the trap skip controls. As a side note, I didn't get too many unwanted button presses for the other buttons, just mostly L1 and R1, but you can rebind any keys you want. We'll do this by navigating to the miyoo.keymap file located in the root of your SD card, the app folder, and then the GMU folder. Now before we begin, I would highly recommend making a backup of the miyoo.keymap file. You can just simply copy and then paste it in here and leave it as is or rename it. Now open miyoo.keymap with a plain text editor like Notepad. We're going to scroll all the way down to the previous track and next track entries, and we're going to change it from L1 to mod plus L1 and then mod plus R1. As you can see here, I already made the changes. The M is uppercase, the L is uppercase, and so is the R, and there are no spaces between the plus and the other words. We're going to save by hitting Ctrl S, and then we're going to exit out of the file. Now, you will not skip tracks by mistake simply because the trigger buttons were pressed by accident. You need to hold the menu button and then press L1 or R1 to skip tracks. You can feel free to change the bindings to whatever you want, but please do note that the modifier, up, down, pause, program info, exit, playlist item, playlist clear, and file browser add file to playlist or change directory must be bound. If you want to undo the changes, you can change it back to L1 or R1 in the miyoo.keymap file and then save the changes. Or you can just simply delete this file. You can rename this to miyoo.keymap. And now your file should be restored. Okay, now we can remove the micro SD card and place it back into the Miyoo Mini Plus. Please remember to safely eject your micro SD card to prevent any possible corruption to the data. If you wanted to create playlists, it's very simple to do so. If you created folders for each playlist like I mentioned before, they should show up in Gmu now. This is the main window of Gmu, which shows you all the files. As you can see here, I have two folders, 100 classical songs and the Doom 2016 OST. If you press select once, we can go to the playlist page, and as we can see here, we have our Doom songs. And press select again to navigate to the main window. If you go to a directory and then press X, it will load the entire directory to the current playlist. If you press select again and take a look at the playlist, you can see that the classical songs were added to the Doom playlist. We're going to navigate back to the main window. If you wanted to add that directory to an entirely new playlist, you're going to hold Menu and then press the Y button. Now if you press select once to go into the playlist page, you will see that it is only the classical songs. Please do note here that the old playlist was replaced with this one, so if you wanted to keep the old one, make sure to save it before doing this. Saving a playlist is very simple. Hold Menu and press the A button. This will go into the playlist manager. Here we can scroll to any of the playlists and then press A to save. Since it's classical music, I'll save it under the classical.m3u playlist. Now I'm going to show loading. I'm going to hold Menu and press B to clear the playlist. As you can see, it is empty now. I'm going to hold Menu and press A to go back into the playlist manager. I'm going to press Y on classic.m3u, and as you can see, our playlist has loaded. Please be mindful of pressing the right buttons here, because it will be very easy to save a playlist instead of loading it. Throughout this process, you'll notice Gmu will turn the screen off frequently in order to save the battery power. I found that pressing up or down on the D-pad was the safest way to make the screen active again without any unwanted inputs. If you want to change this behavior, plug the SD card back into the USB adapter and open it up on your PC. We'll be navigating once again to the SD app Gmu folder, and this time make a backup of the gmu.miyoo.com file. You can simply copy and paste it again. We're going to open the gmu.miyoo.com file in Notepad. We're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom. As we can see here, there's an entry called STL.seconds until backlight power off equals 20. The default value was 20, but I changed it to 60 because I thought that this was more usable in terms of being able to navigate the menu and make changes without the backlight turning off on you. I wouldn't turn it up too high because that would decrease the battery life of your system if you're using it to play music for a long period of time. Now, playlists 1 through 10.m3u are not very descriptive titles, and you may want more playlists. This is also very easy to do. Locate the gmu.miyoo.com file. You can make a backup of this file again if you want to. Open the gmu.miyoo.com file in a plain text editor like Notepad, and then scroll all the way down to Gmu playlist save presets. Here you can rename any of the playlists or add more. If you change a playlist name, we will have to change the actual M3U playlist file name to match as well, but this is also a simple step. You can change any of the playlist names or add more. As we can see here, I added another playlist called duckylist.m3u, and I changed one of the playlist names to doom.m3u as well. Make any changes you want, and then save the file and leave this file open. Now we will see that all the playlist files we created in Gmu are saved here in this directory as .m3u files. We can see the classic.m3u file that we saved from before, and I also had previously made a playlist called Doom and Ducky List. If you want to change the name of a playlist, you can right-click on it and select Rename. Or you can click on it once, and then slow-click on the name once again to be able to rename it. Whenever you change your playlist name, make sure it matches the name in the gmu.miyoo.com file under Gmu playlist save presets. If they don't match, you won't be able to find it. Now you can arrange and rename all of your saved playlists to your liking, and we are all done setting up our playlist now. If you are importing your own playlist, you need to make sure that the directory structure for your music files are correct. We can right-click on a .m3u file and then open it with Notepad. We need to make sure that the directory structure of the songs are correct. You can use this as a template and just make sure you change your M3U files when you're importing them to make sure they match. Honestly, that'll be a bit too much work, so I would just recommend making your own playlist in the Gmu app, unless you're really handy with terminal commands and you can just write a short script to do it for you. Now moving on to controlling Gmu. This is the main screen of Gmu. It shows you all the files available. You can press A on any song to play it immediately here. It'll be separate from the playlist currently loaded, and the playlist will remain. We can also create playlists as mentioned previously from the screen by pressing X on a directory to add all the songs in that directory to the current playlist, or by holding Menu and pressing Y to add the directory to a new playlist. If you hold Menu, you will see new options. The Insert File option will insert the selected file into the current playlist right after the currently playing song. Pressing Select once will switch to the playlist screen. You can select a song and press A to start the playlist going. Pressing B will remove a song from the playlist. The default play mode is Continue. It will keep playing through your playlist in order until it ends. You can press the X button to switch between different play modes, such as Continue, Repeat All, Repeat Track, Random and Repeat. If you hold the Menu button, you can also see different options here as well. Holding Menu and pressing B will clear the entire playlist. Holding Menu and pressing A will bring up the Save and Load Playlist menu. Holding Menu and pressing right on a song will make that song play next. Holding Menu and pressing L2 will bring up information about Gmu. You can press A to exit out of this window. Holding Menu and pressing down will cycle through the auto shut-off options. You can cycle between 50, 30, 60, 90 minutes and after the last track, or you can disable it. However, when I tried to use this feature, it would simply restart the Miyoo Mini Plus instead of turning the device off. It may be bugged as of now, but this feature would be handy if you were planning on listening to music while falling asleep. Since it doesn't work properly, I would recommend turning on the system sleep timer to 30 minutes instead. Pressing Select again from the playlist window will bring it to the track information window. Pressing A will switch between text and image, text only, text and spectral analyzer, and the default mode. Pressing the B button will toggle the text on or off. I don't think this window is useful since the display turns off very quickly to start with, unless you change the display timeout. That's about it for the Gmu app. Holding Menu and Select will exit the app. As for the experience of using it as an MP3 player, It works fine, but it has some minor flaws you may want to consider. For starters, the audio quality seems to be pretty good. I'm no audiophile and I don't have good gear, but to my untrained ear, it sounds fine. If you plan on using the built-in speaker, it definitely is subpar. While the audio is fine, there is a noticeable blip sound whenever a track is finished and it moves on to the next one. It kind of takes me out of the listening experience just a little bit. The blip isn't present when using the skip track function, however, only when a track finishes playing to completion. It may bother you or not. Secondly, the controls are not ideal for quickly navigating the app while in a pocket, and you will have to deal with a lot of unwanted button presses thanks to these sensitive triggers. Thankfully, we can rebind the buttons and that alleviates some of the problems, but with the rebinding, it becomes a bit more difficult to reach into your pocket and operate the device. If you're controlling the device while holding it, it's perfectly fine. Thirdly, it's not the most user-friendly in terms of making changes. Now, I'm totally fine with tinkering since I'm used to it, but for some people, this may be a bit too much just to use it as a music player. Hopefully, this guide makes the process a little bit easier to understand. Okay, that's about it. As a side note, if you guys are planning on using the Miyoo Mini as an MP3 player while working out or moving around a lot, I would definitely recommend making sure it has some sort of case or is secured to your person somehow. The screen is notorious for breaking at the slightest impact. A screen protector won't be enough. You'd need a full case, a bumper case, a lanyard, or heck, even just duct tape it to yourself. In conclusion, the Miyoo Mini Plus works surprisingly well as an MP3 player. The audio quality is pretty good other than the blip after each track, and the Gmu app plays back most of the audio formats currently in use and does a good job with just a tiny bit of tweaking needed. Since the screen is turned off most of the time, you get a decent amount of battery life out of it as well. Just remember to turn the system sleep timer back on, as I know someone out there will forget to turn their device off and wake up to a dead battery. If you only want a dedicated MP3 player, I wouldn't buy a Miyoo Mini just for this purpose alone. A dedicated MP3 player is going to be much cheaper, more robust, as well as easier to use. However, if you have a Miyoo Mini or a Miyoo Mini Plus and you want to listen to music on it, it will work pretty well. Okay, that's going to be it. Thank you so much for dropping by and watching. I hope this guide was helpful. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave one below. I do try to read and respond to every comment. Thanks once again to the Onion OS team and everyone making these open source apps. They are so convenient. As always, hope you guys are staying safe and sane out there, and catch you guys next time.